you ready for the mayhem?
Hosted by Mike, the Big Cheese.
Welcome back to the show, Lizzie Borden. Give him the axe. It is the 25th of September. I have to apologize right off the bat. I've been sick the last couple of days. The weather here in New York, we went from 80 degrees one day down to the low 50s, and it was cold and damp, and today it's raining, and it just got into my chest. I mean, I can't sound any worse than I do when I'm healthy, but I do apologize. We got a great show for everybody tonight. We had an amazing month of September. It's our anniversary month every September, and we had a great anniversary show last week with Jeff Mantis Dunn from Venom. And tonight, Rob Thorne from Sacred Oath is going to wrap up the month of September, as well as Robby Thomas Walsh from Purpendicular. We're talking both of them tonight. Rob in the second half of the show, and Robby in the first half. Right there, Give Him the Axe by Lizzie Borden. We've had Lizzie on the show a couple of times, and one thing I love about Lizzie is every time he comes to New York for anything, he does a lot of in-person interviews. And I love doing in-person interviews because I just feel like they're more fun because it's like, it's like kind of hanging out with your friend and talking and bullshitting, and when I do interviews on the air and I get a lot of bands that come on it for the first time, they're like, do you want to send me a list of questions or stuff you want to talk about? I'm like, I don't know what I'm going to talk about. I don't write any questions. I don't prepare anything. It's just like two friends talking about music, and, I go by all the things I remember about the bands that I'm fans with, and if it's a newer band that I'm doing because maybe a press person or a record label asks me to interview them, I'll look up a little stuff on that band beforehand. But most of the bands from the 80s that I know or familiar with, I just kind of wing it. That's why I think everything's so spontaneous around here, and I enjoy it. But Lizzie's always a fun interview. And I remember the last time we spoke about 6 years ago, He was in a hotel in Midtown Manhattan on top of where David Letterman used to film The Late Show. And it was the middle of the winter, so it's like pitch black here in New York at like 4 o'clock in the afternoon. He's in a small, dingy room. The lights are pretty much all out except for one little tiny lamp in the corner, like a 2-watt light bulb in it. He's wearing sunglasses, sitting in a chair in the corner. It was like a scene out of The Godfather. I didn't know if I was supposed to kiss his ring or bow to him or whatever, but, it was the weirdest thing in the world. But Lizzie's a really great guy, and I love talking to him, and it was all for fun, but we got to talk to him and get him back on here again real soon. All right, we got a couple of new things to get to tonight. We're going to do some new leather, new razor, and sadly we lost another great one this week. Gord Kirchen, the pile driver, passed away the other day. He's been fighting cancer for some time now, and I know it was like a week or so ago he was posting that he just finished his chemo and he was hoping to get over the sickness of it, and within that week he was gone. 60 years old. Gord was a great guy. We had him on the show quite a few times. A real character. I mean, he was a larger-than-life character on stage, but nothing really like that in real life. He was just a fun guy, a good guy, really good people. And, Kurt Phillips from Witch Killer emailed me the other day saying, Mike, can you do a little tribute to him? And Kurt, I'm going to do that because we do that for everybody that passes away that was involved in the music business. So how about we do a little triple shot of stuff that was involving Gord? We'll do some Pile Driver, the band Convict, which was more like a studio project with him and one other guy. It was a pretty cool record. And then we'll do something with Dogs with Jobs, and maybe we'll wrap up something from the Exalted Pile Driver towards the end of the show, if that sounds good to everybody. Then we'll get to an interview with Robby right after this, so maybe we'll do another little quick set of music. We'll see how that goes. And then we'll talk to Rob Thorne from Sacred Oath right after that. So let me see what I can get on here from the Pile Driver. How about we do Sodomize the Dead?
Pile
to stay alive in this world. Just doing your time in this world. Looking hard to find the silver lining somewhere, anywhere. And if you feel that you've had enough, stop acting, it's time to get tough. Don't let these meatballs push you around. They will tell you, they will yell at you, but you don't want to listen, you know what to do. Bite the hand that feeds you. Play it smart and do it fast. Bite the hand that feeds you. Make your mark and don't be last. Bite the hand that feeds you. You may never get another chance. Bite the hand that feeds you. Don't you let 'em. Oh, don't you let 'em. No, don't you let 'em. No, don't you let 'em give you no sign and dance. They will tell you, they will yell at you, but you don't want to hear it, so go on. Bite the hand that feeds you. Yeah. Bite the hand that feeds you. Bite the hand that feeds you. Bite the hand that feeds you. Bite, 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 bite the hand that feeds you. We'll play it smart and do it fast. Bite the hand that feeds you. You gotta make your mark and don't be last. Bite the hand that feeds you. You may never get another chance. Bite the hand that feeds you. Don't you let 'em have your song and dance. Bite the hand that feeds you. 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 When morning comes, you don't want to go. Your head's like lead on your pillow, but you get up and do it anyway. Your tail between your legs, you stuck on the ride to work. You sit and sulk. Dogs like sheep in cattle cars, what a race. Your dogs with jobs. Sit up, boy, now big. Yeah, your dogs with jobs. Yeah, if you do your tricks just right, you can earn a bone to bite, and then maybe get a raise. So stop your barking, do your bit. With a paper, you'll be hit. Bad dogs never get to go outside. Bad dog, your dogs with jobs. Fix the stick, here, Fido. Your dogs with jobs. Oh no, did he go on the carpet again? thing that gets you fired, like chasing pussy or biting tires. Whatever you do, don't hug my leg no more. No more. Just do your gig and wag your tail, and you'll get bones when they're on sale. Yeah, you can be just like the other dogs. You're dogs. You're dogs with jobs. You're dogs. All right, who knocked over the drill press? You're dogs. You're dogs with jobs. You're dogs. Give me bad dog. Bad dog. You're dogs with jobs. You're dogs. Come here, you. Come here. You're dogs. You're dogs with jobs. You're dogs. You go right to your bed right now. Bad dog.
All right, our little tribute to Gord over there. He was a really great guy. Gave you a little bit of everything he's done. I mean, I love that. Before we that was Dogs with Jobs, the song "Dog with Jobs." Before that, we did "Convict." That was off the record "Go Ahead, Make My Day" from '85. That was completely different than "Dogs with Jobs" and the "Exalted Pile Driver" or "Pile Driver." It was more traditional, hard rock power metal record, and it was such a solid album. Even though it was like a studio project, I don't think they ever did anything else with it besides that. I think Conrad Taylor was the guy who played all the instruments on the record, and Gord did the singing. But if you could find it somewhere, I mean, I'm sure on YouTube. I mean, I don't really go to YouTube or use it a lot, but I'm sure you could probably find it on there somewhere. It was a really solid record. Go ahead and make my day. All right, we're going to get to the interview in about 2 minutes. So how about we do, I don't know what we can do. You know what? Let's do some brand new Leather. We got new Leather. She's coming out with a new record this November. We'll have Leather back on the show. She's always a fun person to talk to. This is We Take Back Control.
The
Killer, Beg for Mercy. All right, we're going to talk to Robby Thomas Walsh from Purpendicular. Let's get on a song off that brand new record. Here's the Nothing Box.
Courtiers, I won't blame it on a bad day. I can't help myself from drifting away, caught in a daydream. I'm looking at space, yeah, it's so comfy here, just right in this place. I was gone for so long. Please excuse me, I was sitting in my nothing box. So wrong. An empty cuboid space, that's the place I go. Got my time to waste, no reminiscing of a secret dance. No work's been done in this wonderful trance. I was gone for so long. Please excuse me, I was sitting in my nothing box. So
tell you, I'm excited about this brand new record. I mean, when you think about the story of this band, I mean, it's sort of like a rock star story in a way. If you go, I mean, how does a band doing covers of Deep Purple become an original outfit with the member of Deep Purple in it?
Yeah, it's crazy, isn't it? I mean, that I don't want to sound cliche or cringy, but it is like that. But I tell you what, it was a lot of fucking work, Mike. A lot of work and a lot of
Yeah.
kicks in the teeth. You just have to get. I'll say to any kid, if you want it, it's there for you, no matter what you're after, as long as it's not completely alien stuff. I mean, you just gotta keep going. I mean, I've done many setbacks we have. You just have to keep getting up every time you knock down. Get up and keep going. But it wasn't planned actually that I would play with Ian Pace. I mean, when growing up, I was a drummer when I started first. So he was one of my favorite drummers, as Cozy Powell and John Bonham and these great drummers. And I had the Purple records. I got influenced in my late teens with Purple and stuff like that, mid-teens, late teens. And if somebody had said to me back then, "Yeah, you're going to be touring with Ian Pace," and I would say, I would have had them committed to a madhouse. It's still surreal. Some people come in and they're not Deep Purple fans, and they take it all very complacent and stuff. But I remind myself, how big of an artist he is, and we became great pals the moment we met each other. It was a bit stressy the first night because everything was very rushed, and we didn't rehearse together. We still didn't, and we just became good buddies. We like the same thing. We share the same interests in football, food, beer, God knows what, humor, jokes, you name it. So we it's rare we differ on things, and yeah, it is a fairy tale story. It is. I'm trying to make a book at the moment. I'm trying to write down diaries, and I was just saying about my memory. When you do so many things and so many tours, you just try to put it all into perspective. You try to write stuff down, and then you think you're doing great, and then oh shit, I forgot about that. And then
Yeah.
you got to go back. So that's where I need an editor. So at the moment, I'm just talking to a couple of editors because I've got to got to do a book on this. Not only just to tell about how great it is to play with Ian and with Purpendicular, but to inspire young kids that just maybe don't know or haven't just got that little extra, need that extra advice and push to just keep going, because so many people just throw their tools down at the first. They want everything handed to them on a silver platter. It doesn't work like that, man.
Well, that's this generation. I mean, people
I
don't
know.
realize you've put in 15 years or more just into this band alone, never mind in music in general, and it doesn't happen overnight. I mean, it's rare for it to ever
Yeah.
be that way. And you do got to pay your dues, and sometimes it works out, sometimes it doesn't. That's just the roll of the dice with the music business.
But you know something, Mike? I'll even go beyond 14, 15 years, whatever it is in Perpendicular. I think when I was at school, because when I figured out after a period of time that I'm not interested in history and shit like that. So I used to listen to a lot of the lyrics from Purple, on my headphones when I was going to school, and that was my schooling actually. When I was learning them songs walking to school, I was learning the lyrics even back then, and then so it's not really just the 15 years. It's all the stuff that happened before then that actually just fell into place, and it's strange that way because then I started to play in amateur bands. So collectively, all the experience that I had is where I am today. I couldn't be here today, if it wasn't for all that little groundwork stuff, little tiny things, the small things that people overlook sometimes, and they're important.
That's very true. And, for people that don't know the band, aren't familiar with the band yet, and they should be, I mean, great homage to Deep Purple, but Perpendicular is not Deep Purple at all. I
No.
mean, you got your roots in their style of music, but it's a completely different beast altogether. People should realize that before they give it a listen and know that you guys stand on your own merit.
Well, we do, yeah, but it's tough, especially in Germany, because journalists will just put us down as the dreaded cover band or the dreaded tribute band, and there's many of them, and with no disrespect at all, they play in one area. They're not internationally known kind of thing, and then and then that's fine. That's if that's what they want to do, if they want to dress up like Purple and act like Purple. But we put a stamp down that nobody's going to copy anybody. The reason why we started to do the Deep Purple thing was, Mike, back then I had a little band called Dakota, and we had a couple of interviews with record companies. One of them was Virgin, and they said it was very, very good, and they were going to do something, but then they signed a rap act instead of us. So we got shoveled out, kind of ousted, and we realized that we were playing in clubs with 10, 15 people, and we just couldn't make ends meet without having 2 or 3 jobs or whatever, and it wasn't manageable. So we had to say, look, we have to be clever here. What are we going to do? We just, well, why don't we do the tribute thing? That's a step up from the cover thing, where you're not just playing for weddings and stuff like that, and for quick cash, if you know what I'm saying. I said, I think the common denominator, Mike, was Deep Purple, because in Deep Purple you have a lot of there's a big space for improvisation. You can stamp your own. You can be expressive. You can do your own thing within the structure of them songs. So that was a turn on for us. We said, right, yeah, we can do that. We can be ourselves every night. We can jam in the middle of them. Okay, you keep the songs. You can't change them dogmatically different. You got to keep them, so that people will recognize them, and people wanted to hear Purple, and we got paid. So it gave us a chance to develop, but we didn't emphasize it would turn out like this. Turn away in Pace, and with a very good record company, Metalville, and on our 3rd original album, so it was, crazy, man, crazy.
Sure. And when you were doing the Deep Purple thing, I mean, you didn't go old school. You said, hey, you know what? We're going to concentrate on a different era of the band, which a lot of people wouldn't have done at that time.
Well, exactly what I was saying. We didn't want to go in. Everybody was doing Richie Blackmore, and yeah, Richie's amazing, and it is great fun to play. But we needed to come in at a completely different angle that nobody else was doing. So Purpendicular was a good idea, because I say, okay, it's going to be a Purple tribute, but we don't want to be like the other tributes. We want to be ourselves. We don't want to copy. So I woke up one October in the middle of the night, and I had this Purpendicular, and I said it to the lads, and I told them why, and they said, yeah, it's cool, it's brilliant, yeah, it's a different stamp on it, and we always tried to be ourselves, man, and I think, Mike, that's why Ian is so relaxed, and he tours with us, because he wouldn't be with people that are copying himself, and I don't think so. Me knowing him a long time, I think he's fairly comfortable with us. He knows that we hardly talk about music. We talk about other stuff in general, life in general, and he's totally relaxed. He's a good pal, So I think that was a factor as well. He knew we weren't dressing up like them or copying them, so that was very important.
True. It's a new record, Human Mechanic. I think the last 2 records were amazing, but I think you really found your groove with this record. I think it shows like where the band has come over the last 10 years, even though it's been like, 4 or 5 years since the last record came out. But, COVID hit in between, and that was a hard time for everybody.
Yeah, that was a nightmare. But you know what, Mike, and I've been saying this in all the interviews I'm doing, it was a blessing. It was a blessing for us just to take that little bit of time off, because it gave us time to sit down and say, right, well, where are we going with this? Who wants to be on board? Who's going to bring us to the next level? After all these years, we just don't want to sit there and just play every night, and then next minute Ian retires, and then we have to start back at the beginning again, or not the beginning, but you know what I'm getting at. But so we needed to make important decisions. What label? What lineup who we're gonna keep? When we're going to release, because we couldn't release in COVID, because it wouldn't make any sense not to be able to do a promotional tour, because it's just a waste of time, isn't it? You're putting an album out and you can't promote it, and it'll just drop. And I don't think the label probably would have either, if they're going to invest so much money involved in the project. So the COVID thing did it didn't help, but it did. It sounds paradoxical, but it gave us time, because normally we'd be working a lot on the road. So it was, what was it, for 4 or 5 years it was, I wasn't pleased about it, because I wanted an album to come out in 2019 actually, and then 2020 we got off the Scandinavian tour. The shit started with the COVID, and we had some songs nearly ready. But in that time as well, we added an instrumental. We polished the sound up a little bit. We said, right, we need to get 10 nice songs that sit really nice and neat together dynamically, and to keep it interesting for the listener. We got a nice punchy sound from the drums and a nice warm mix, which I have to congratulate my colleague Herb on guitar. He did all the engineering, and the mastering plant, they did a fantastic job. So yeah, I'm very pleased with it. Very pleased. It's a step up from the other albums, of course. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a great sounding record. Passing through the instrumental is such a solid song, and it's kind of rare for a singer to say, "Let's put an instrumental on a record," because the singer wants to be on every song.
Wait, sorry, say that again, Mike. I didn't get that.
I was saying, "Passing through" is instrumental on the album, and it's rare for a singer to encourage the band to write instrumentals because the singers want to be on every song.
Yeah, well, as you get older, you kind of, it's the same with Herb. He's not a guitar player that wants to be in the forefront, and none of us actually do. We're a good team. We do what's right for the song. If you hear a song, you say, you don't need to say instrumental now. It just doesn't need to. No words need to be put on that. Or he'll come out sometime and say, you know what, this verse here doesn't need any guitar. It just needs a bit of that beautiful Hammond with the bass and your voice. I might do a little bit of picking, and that's great when you hear that from a guitar player, because normally they want to plaster guitars everywhere. It's beyond farcical sometimes. And the thing with Herb is that he plays what's right for the song, and his solos is an extension of what the song, of the mood of the song, or whatever the lyrical content is. So he's clever that way, and he's mature that way. And that was another step up. But we're both like that. We both bounce off each other and respect each other, what we're doing.
Yeah. People can read anything into any lyric that you give them. I mean, it may not be what you wrote it about or what it's for, but people just decipher things their own way, maybe because it means something personal to them or it's relevant to what's going on in their life. And I look at TV stars and internet freaks, and I could come up with 101 different scenarios about what that song is about. I mean, because it's so relevant to the world we live in today. I mean,
Yeah.
what were you thinking when you wrote that song?
Well, I was thinking about the music business and the saturation involved in bands like us that work very hard. And then you get bands that don't hardly work at all. And they're posting stuff that making out that they're massive fucking artists, and they're not. I always said, Mike, it's not about how many clicks you have. It's about how many dollars you have in the bank. And that's the end. But and it's not only for it's not only for musicians. It's right across the board on Instagram and stuff. Don't misunderstand me, because there's some great stuff on YouTube. There's some great homemade channels, and I think they're great. But there's a lot of fakery out there. Fakery is, I've just made that word up, have I? Check that.
It's a good one. I like that.
Fakery, yeah. Not bakery, fakery. There's just, and that's where I was getting at. I said, everybody wants to be a TV star nowadays. Everybody wants to be a rock star nowadays, and the saturation that it's causing, it's very damaging to the business. So that was from my side. But like what you said, you can take it from any side you want. Whoever buys that album, it's theirs, and it's theirs to enjoy, and they can interpret it. I can't talk now. That's the beer, Mike.
Yeah, but that it's true, because going back to the 80s when I was a kid and I was going to shows, and you'd run into people on the street and they were like, "Oh, I'm in this band, they were playing at this club, and we're the greatest band. We've got a million people that come to see us." And you go there, there's 5 people in the audience. Back then it was easier to find those bands because there was no, but with social media today, it's so easy for bands to bullshit everybody and to convince people that they're more than they are. But it has to take away from, like you said, the real bands like yourselves that are paying their dues and working hard to make something happen.
Yeah.
And the internet makes it so easy for anybody to even put out a record or release something today. There's no hard work involved anymore for a lot of bands.
Well, that's why it's a little bit of annoyance, because we work all over Europe, as and hopefully we'll get stateside with the new record. We'll talk about that in a minute. But the thing is with that is that years ago, only good bands went on the road, because there was, as you say, there was no internet. There was a phone call or a telegram or what you call a fax. The faxes back then, and each band, back then was massive, because that's how it worked. But nowadays, you can get everybody talking to everybody. If somebody's fired out of a band, they're manipulating this. They're talking to promoters, and they shouldn't be. It's just that's the downside of it, Mike. You know, it's a nightmare. You know, but it's not only that, Mike. It's not only because of that. I remember years ago, you'd meet a girl in a club on Saturday. You know, you go out on a Saturday night with your buddies, you know, and you'd have a drink,
Yep.
and you know, you'd meet this great girl, you'd have a dance. If you're lucky, a bit more. But no, you know, you'd say to her, "Look, I'll meet you here next Saturday, by that poster over there, or that pillar over there in the club, or whatever." And she'd say, "Yeah," and you'd be excited the whole week. You'd build on the whole week. Nowadays, you can't do that. You'd walk out of the club, you'd already be texting her, and by the time you get home, you wouldn't want to meet her again, or something would happen, or you'd find out something that. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
There's no time anymore with the internet. You know, even with the label, they said, "Rob, keep everything to a TikTok, 90 seconds, 30 seconds." And I said, "Fuck me, that's nobody's patience anymore. Nobody's patience anymore. That's the problem."
That's the sad part. I mean, as never mind like the business part of it, but as a musician, do you find like now where you have to grab people's attention like in the first 30 seconds of a song to draw them in, or because they move on? I mean, I'll
Yeah,
play a record start to finish, and sometimes it takes a little longer to grow on me, and
yeah,
sometimes it doesn't.
yeah,
But I give it that chance because
yeah.
it's music.
That's
People
right.
today, like if they hear one riff and if it doesn't draw them in, like okay, this band's no good. It's horrible.
It's just too much information. That's what it is.
Yeah.
Years ago, you had to go down if you wanted a magazine, whether it be for clothes or whatever it was, or knitting or whatever take your fancy. You had to go out and buy a magazine, or watch it on the TV, or hear it like what you did on the radio. But nowadays, people just have too much shoved in their face. The minute they open their eyes in the morning, they're scrolling, 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 scrolling. I'm guilty of it as well, because you're looking up news and stuff, and it's just too much information. And I was just saying to the lads there, we just finished a tour in Czech Republic. We did a week over there, and we were just saying after dinner, I said, everything, nobody's any patience anymore, and everything is. I think we're from a technology point, we've just gone crazy. We're just when you figure out something like what I was saying at the start, they will find something else even more difficult to understand. And you know, it's if you look at Facebook, it started off very easy. Now it's like a labyrinth. It's just a maze. I don't even deal with it.
That's true.
Just drive you nuts, man. It's like even in the supermarket where they keep changing shit around, and you end up fucking hell. The sugar was there last week. Now where is it? You gotta go look for it.
Yeah.
I think they're
It,
doing it on purpose, man.
They are. It is a crazy world, but music is supposed to be everybody's escape. That's where you go to get away from the
Yeah,
pressures, from the anxiety, from the stress of the real world. You're supposed to just put that on and and just let it take you to another place and another world. So when you're rushing your way through music, I mean, what joy really are you having then in life if music isn't the thing that's taking you there or where you have to go?
yeah. Well, I say that to the audiences every night. They have a great time. We as I say, we never rehearse. It keeps it interesting for us. And even though the set list might be the same, it isn't. If you know what I'm saying, we improvise differently every night, and we interact. I interact with the audience every night, and so do the lads. And we have a great time. And I always say to them, look, our job is done. If you can forget your problems for at least 2 hours that we're on the stage or whatever, if you can forget your problems just for that amount of time, we've done our job. And
True.
normally that's the case. They go home satisfied normally.
Rob, I mean, today, I mean, what is the hardest part about keeping a band together, keeping three, four, five guys in a group together and happy playing with each other? I mean, well, that doesn't sound right, playing with each other, but I mean, playing
Well,
together in a band. What's the challenge instead of keeping a band together?
it's a fucking nightmare.
I can imagine.
Nightmare, because I was asked an interview, a written interview. I think it was a German magazine, or I'm not sure, but they asked what was my biggest roadblock, and musicians are. I don't know why they think everything should fall on a platter for them. And also, everybody's dogmatic. We think differently. Everybody thinks differently, and what they might want one day, they might want differently the next day. And we had many guys coming in and out. I mean, I'm glad to say our original keyboard player, founding member Christoph Kugler, is with us back again, full time. Ian was there from the start, not full time on the road, but he was there. He was doing the smaller tours, and as myself. So there's 3/5 of the original band that was basically started in late 2007. So in the midst in the midway of all that, we had different players in, and my God, some of them. I mean, they would blame me. They would say, "Oh, fucking," because I have obviously the last call, because it's first and foremost, it's a business at the end of the day. People have to realize that, and if somebody's going to come in and wreck your business, and I'm pretty. I'd like to say I'm pretty lenient, but if something's not right, Ian will come to me as well and say, well, he's not, no, and so I have to make the last call always. So I'm usually the baddie, but I mean, during the time with Perpendicular, we had a nice little lineup, and some people you get a guy that was constantly 2 hours late, and you get angry with him. He would get angry at you, as to say, why are you angry at me? So you got to lose people like that, because it's just totally unprofessional. You can't run a business with somebody like that. And then you got other people trying to steal the contacts, and people that got fired, they start working with them and trying to do the same thing on the same circuit and shit like this, and it's awful. I just said that I never had problems with labels. I never had problems with organizers, agents, or anything like that. But musicians are a nightmare. They're insatiable. If you give them X amount of money, they'll want more. If you increase that, they'll want more again, and it just goes on and on. I mean, but I'm very lucky with Herb. Herb has always been there. He hasn't been announced with trouble since 2012. And Christoph Kugler had to leave because he was starting a family, but now the kids are kind of grown up, and he's come back again, which is brilliant. We're so happy to have him. He's only he's only announced the trouble when he doesn't go to the bar on time, And Ian is Ian. Ian is brilliant. He's a great pal. He always has a great story, and he's so reliable. He's so helpful as well. So the lineup, and obviously Nick, his son-in-law, who played with Jamiroquai, he's a great pal of mine as well. So I'm hoping that this lineup can stay together for a long, long, long time, and I think it will, because we've got level-headed guys here. We don't have any TV stars or internet freaks.
That's important. I mean, yeah, there is a comfortability factor in working with certain people over and over again, because everybody knows each other's style and how they play and what they're about. But like, I remember the movie with Tom Hanks with the band. He played with the Playtone Record Galaxy, that thing you do. And the band was like a one-hit wonder type band, and they were talking to an old jazz guy, a blues guy, and he was like, bands come and go. They just don't work. He goes, you got to take care of yourself, be a solo project, a one-man band. So I guess there is something to that, because if you're the main guy and you have hired guns around you, you're always going to right that ship. You're going to take it the way you want to. But then there are those times where you do need other people to, to pitch in and rely. So it's like a catch-22.
It is a catch-22, and you're one of the first DJs or interviewers that said that to me. It is awful. Many times, a couple of years, I was so unhappy with the band, and it's awful because people, they don't want to help, and then if you're asking them, they think you're being a bully and stuff. But sometimes, it's like a football team. You might snap at somebody, but we're all on the same fucking team here. We all want the same end product. At least that's what I thought. So. That's why we had to make all these changes. And you don't know yourself. You don't know what a person's like unless you go touring with them. You can interview them all till the fucking cows come home. You just don't know who they are until if they got a good reputation, blah, 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 then you can get lucky. But mainly, we weren't always lucky. So you'd end up with somebody that might be a bad egg, that was a luck of the draw, And it nearly ended a couple of times because of one or two bad eggs, I would have continued. But like what you said, you just have to then make decisions for the band. You got to say, right, I've got to keep this on the path that it's on, and nobody's bigger than the band. It doesn't matter who it is, and that was imperative, and I'll continue to do that. I will definitely continue to do that. At the start, I wanted. We would have been about 2 or 3 years. I gave everybody a chance. We'd all do the management together, and that's a fucking nightmare. You got 5 guys with different opinions, and a perfect example is, when I started to take control, because I had to. If I hadn't taken control, as in for the business side of it, we probably wouldn't be here. We wouldn't be here because I give you an example. A festival one day called. And I needed everybody to give it the okay. And by the time everybody was hemming and hawing and trying to make a decision, some wouldn't answer their mails. And then the festival's gone. So you throw
Yeah.
money down the toilet. So I said, right, that's it. I'm going to make a decision. If somebody's not available, I'm getting a sub. I don't give a shit. And you have to do stuff like that. It's not nice. It's never nice, but that's what I had to basically put up with. And there's a lot of weight on the shoulders all the time, but generally myself and Ian will make the decisions at the moment. And we made some decisions for the human mechanic. And I think it's the right one because we've got great, great, great feedback for the whole thing. So
Yeah,
I think
it
it's
is an amazing album.
yeah,
Absolutely amazing record, start
yeah.
to finish.
Cheers, man. Appreciate that.
How are things in Europe right now? I mean, I know things have been picking up all over the country and all over the world again. Everybody's out playing and doing shows, and the tours are happening. Some are getting canceled because members are coming down with COVID. This
Yeah,
isn't going away. It's never going to change. We have to just live with it and move on. But
yeah.
do you see things getting better over there now, where you can start booking more and more stuff and having to be reliable enough to go out and tour with it?
Well, we had a load of German dates this year pulled and put into 2023, and that was annoying a bit. And the promoter said, well, it's still people scared to go out. We can definitely get much more ticket sales if we just prolong it a little bit more into 2023. I wasn't pleased about it, but because we never like to cancel. Even if one of us are ill, we understand people make arrangements. They get babysitters. They have to take trains or in some cases planes to come and see us. And it's never nice to say, oh, we cancel. It's usually a complete last resort from the band's point of view. So hopefully it's going to pick up. The Czech Republic tour was basically sold out. That was brilliant. We just did that. So there's no reason why everywhere else shouldn't be. We've always done very well in Germany and France and Scandinavia, and so I'm hoping that it will just, as you say, we got to live with it. We can't, it's just going to be like a bad flu, and there's certain
Yeah.
people that don't get it. I mean, fingers crossed. I mean, I don't want to say anything. I don't want to jinx it. I didn't get it yet. Ian didn't get it yet. Herb didn't get it yet. I think Stoff had it. And I think Stoff is the only. Christoph, our keyboard player, was the only one that had it a while ago. So, but other than that, it's all good. But if somebody gets struck down with it, it's difficult.
Yeah, I know. And what are the chances if you get into the U.S. maybe next year? Is it a possibility? Because I mean, right now, never mind COVID, I think the economy is even in worse shape. I mean, the inflation, things are getting harder. I see a lot of bands in the U.S. trying to go over to Europe. I mean, and these are pretty well-known larger bands, and they're
Yeah.
like, we got to cancel because the expenses is just spiraling out of control. We can't make it affordable.
Well, yeah, we noticed that when we did we had two Danish dates, and we realized that the price of fuel was off the charts. It was ridiculous. It was nearly three times what we normally pay, and yeah, it is difficult at the moment, but we got to go through it. You can't just say you can't give up. We've come so far, and you'd hope that world leaders, their heads are so far up their asses. It's unbelievable that they can even breathe. It's
Yeah.
awful. I mean, they're just wrecking the normal guys' livelihoods. Families that just want to go and work 9 to 5 or whatever it is, save up their money, take their family on a vacation or whatever like that, and they're just fucking wrecking it for everybody. Just these ideologists and crazy fuckers in charge. It's sad. It's really sad. Because we're the ones that kind of suffer. But I mean, we've got to go through. We've got to see how it develops. We've got to just go forward as best one can.
Yeah, that's all you can do. I mean, what's next for the band? I mean, Metalville, the new record, Human Mechanic, 23rd, I believe, is the official release date, even though people can hear a lot of songs now. I mean, so where do you go after this now? What's the next step for promoting the record?
Well, getting back to the last question, we had about 15 to 22 dates in US, in Canada, North America, and East Coast for last year, but it got delayed because Deep Purple had some work over there, and Ian, obviously they get preference over us, obviously because of Ian's stature. So we're working again with Metalville. They have an agent over there, I think it's TKO or something like that, and they're working to put us over there for a month, probably around, well, I would say next September. I would like to say I'm just waiting on the okay from Ian and stuff like that, and then we can plan ahead. That'd be great because we first time over there, it will be fantastic. And getting to the question you just asked me, well, we're starting off on on the 16th of, as I said, we just did a week in Czech Republic, and we got one gig on the 30th in Czech Republic in Brno, and then we're starting again on the 16th of November in France near Paris, I think it is, and we go through France and up through Germany in December, and we're off for Christmas, and then we're up in Sweden then for a week. And April, I'm expecting a Bulgarian dates. I'm expecting a lot of German dates again. So that's what it's at the moment. And I know that we'll start doing the follow-up. We'll start writing for the follow-up probably next month, or when we get together. We have to talk about that. But we're already collecting ideas live. We always collect when we're on stage. We jam a lot, and we always put down ideas that would work live. So we take little jams that we do and keep them and develop songs out of them, because it's good to play stuff that Ian kind of wants to play and has already kind of had the idea for it in a live setting. You know what I'm saying? So, but that's about where we're at the moment. But we want to continue, of course. You know, we'll continue to tour as much as possible. We try and reach as many countries as we can. And we're looking forward to promoting, obviously, this album first, but we'll be definitely writing another one.
I can't wait. And as much as I'm looking forward to a new record right now, The Human Mechanic is going to tie me over till the next year. And, you know, Robbie, I'm not going to keep you any longer. I'm going to play some songs when we get on the live show this weekend, and I can't wait till next September. Hopefully it'll happen and you guys will be here in the U.S., because I would love to see you guys live. And I know you'll be in New York, because every band comes to New York. Yeah, you can't come here without playing in New York.
There's Irish bars there, isn't it?
There's a lot of Irish bars, and I'll make sure I take you to the best one.
Oh, that'd be brilliant, Mike. I'd love to, man. We'd have a good laugh. I know that.
We absolutely will. Well, Robbie, it was great talking to you today. Human Mechanics, September 23rd, Metalville. I can't wait for the rest of the people to hear this record, man. They're going to be blown away by what you guys created.
Appreciate it. Absolutely overwhelmed. Thank you, man. Appreciate it.
Thank you, my friend. Take care, and I'll see you next year.
There's always sunshine, no chance for rain. They're posting pictures. Oh, they love the envy game. Look at me. Oh,
All right, brand new Purpendicular. Absolutely love these guys. TV stars and internet freaks. All right, we're going to get to Rob Thorne from Sacred Oath in about 5 minutes or so. So how about we jump into a Sacred Oath song? I'll give my voice a little bit more of a rest, and then we'll get the interview with Rob right after that. And I got a whole bunch of new music still to get to tonight and some more classics. Then we'll wrap it up here. All righty, let me see. How about we do Shadow Out of Time? Here you go.
Rivers cry, feel the vengeance in their song. The savage die. Ended.
Man, how great is that? Sacred Oath, Shadow Out of Time. We're going to wait a couple of minutes for Rob to call in before we jump into another song, and then I have to kind of cut it off to get the interview going. But Kurt Vanderhoof from Metal Church said that they have a new lead singer. I guess they're going to announce it pretty soon. The last time I spoke with Kurt was in 2015. It was right before Mike Howe rejoined the band. I mean, he'd already agreed to come back. It was already in works, but when I spoke to Kurt, he said that if anything happened and Mike Howe was out of the band, that he would just end Metal Church. He wouldn't go on anymore because I guess even he was tired of, the constant changing of singers over the years. But Mike killed himself. He committed suicide. He didn't like break up or leave the band, or they didn't part ways. So maybe that's why Kurt decided to keep it going. So who knows? Is there going to be will there be the Ronnie Monroe hat trick? Will Ronnie Monroe come back for the third time? I mean, these are the vicious rumors right now. I don't see that happening. Are they going to go like a completely unknown singer? Or are they going to look for somebody that's known? And it kind of never works out when you get somebody else that's from another band or that's well known already. It just doesn't jive a lot of times. So I think he's going to go with somebody unknown. It would be pretty cool if he actually went with William McKay, who was with the band like in 1980 before David Wayne. And I think it was Mike Murphy was the other guy. I think both of them came in one after the other in the very early stages of the band. I believe McKay sang with them for 2001 and 2002, maybe 2003. He joined. Nothing was recorded as far as I know. There were no albums out at that time, but he did come back into the band in between singers that they were having a problem with back then. So, I mean, this was like he was in the band originally in the pre-Griffin days, so it would be pretty cool maybe if they got him back in the band, because he is known from Griffin, but, it's not the biggest or most popular band. It is for us underground guys, but not for other people, so that wouldn't be bad. I like to hear that. I think it would sound pretty cool, so who knows? I guess pretty soon they're going to announce who the new singer is, and we'll get Kurt back on the show, and we'll talk to him all about that. All right, we'll wait another minute or so for Rob to call in. We'll get this interview going. Not much happening in the metal news. Last week we had a lot of technical problems on the show. It was the first time in a long time that things just went wrong one after the other. But I was able to splice the two halves of the show together, and I did upload them. So what you do here is everything but the intro because I just couldn't get it on. All right, I believe we got Rob on the line right now. Let's connect him. Rob, this is Mike. You're on air. How are you?
Hey, Mike, how are you?
I'm doing great. I have to apologize. I've been sick the last few days, so I'm kind of hoarse and stuffy, so you got to forgive me.
Oh, aren't we all, dude? Aren't we all?
Yeah. Plus, getting through the Brooklyn accent is kind of hard itself, too.
Yeah, well, no, it's okay. I understand. Brooklyn, fine.
Listen, Rob, big fan of the band going back to when I got the first demo tape, back in like 85. And I've been with you guys since then. And when you put it back together some years ago, I was so happy. And I've never seen a band that has such a short existence when you think about it, with just the one record in the beginning stages of the band that's been so active over the last 20 years.
Yeah, how do you even explain that?
It's crazy.
You go back to the first demo?
I was a big tape trader in the early 80s, and I had a couple of friends in Connecticut, and girl Roberta Powers, I'll never forget, and she sent me a copy of that demo with Ferryman's Lair and Battle Cry and Prophecy, and I was a fan after that. I stood with you guys all those years.
That is just crazy. Yeah, that's the very, very beginning. That was we recorded that in the back of a music store. Because back then, and that was the only studio, that was the only game in town in the Danbury area. There was a music store called Danbury Electronic Music, and in the back they had a tiny little room and a little. At the time, it was a cutting-edge, like, digital recorder, actually, that recorded onto VHS tapes. But this is obviously way before ADAT. And they wanted to try it out, and we went in and we did those 3 songs in a couple days. And, that was my first experience ever recording. And the band was, so new at that point, like only a few months old. I'd only actually even been playing guitar, I think, for less than 6 months at the time. But we were young, I think I was either 15 or 16 when we did that demo, and so that was just But once we had done that, Mike, everything, I knew, everything started to come into focus for Sacred Oath, and pretty quickly after that, we went in and did Shadow Out of Time. Do you have that one?
I have that one too. That was the demo that came out after that.
Yeah, and that one we actually went into a real studio in Wallingford, Connecticut, and that was when we started our whole relationship with Emma, producing us. David Brizzo, who was the live sound engineer at the time with Fate's Warning, and we had become friendly with Fate's Warning and really good friends with Dave, and we had asked him to come in and produce that demo, which was a lot of fun, and he ended up staying on for Crystal Vision.
That was, when you think about it, like I said, you guys were teenagers, probably in high school at that time. but you had such a
Oh yeah.
developed sound. I mean, for a bunch of kids that just got together, like I said, and you were only playing guitar maybe a half a year, how did you develop
Yeah.
such a distinct sound that early on?
We listened to a lot of music, man.
Yeah.
A lot of music. You figure, God, by 13, 13 or 14, I was really, really, really hooked into, you know, what at the time was heavy music, for a kid that young. Back in Black had come out, and it was like, wow, that guy sounds sinister, And
Yeah.
Ozzy had Blizzard of Oz and Diary of a Madman out. And so that's what got me hooked in there. And my God, by the time Sacred Oath got together, at that point it was Merciful Fate and Metallica and Megadeth had just come out with Killing Is My Business, and it was an exciting time, So you were all the way in, Mike. We were in the beginning days of Sacred Oath. Well, we still are, but then it was like all in. 24 hours a day, working, just being with the band, doing our thing, trying to figure out who we were,
Well, you definitely did that, and I know when a Crystal Vision came out, it was around '87. I want to say, if I remember the exact year. As I get older, things start to get a little less clearer to me.
No, it's funny because people are confused on the date with that record, because we signed with Mercenary in '87, and the release date was published to be '87. And it ended up coming out something like the first week of January '88. So it's right on that cusp.
Yeah, so it was the beginning of that year. And I remember the stories from years ago that I guess you had nothing but trouble with that label, and it was kind of the be-all, end-all for the band when you signed with that label, because I guess that kind of like just tore the band apart, everything that happened around that time. And being kids, I mean, being so young, I mean, you had no idea of the business part of the music business, which it is. And that, I'm sure that really worked a lot of havoc on the band at the time.
Well, that is exactly why, we hit some rough waters, and the answer for us was to just forget it, because we were so young, Mike. That was the thing. I mean, first of all, you're talking about a bunch of kids still in high school who all of a sudden find themselves recording an album with a label deal, and we're thinking, in our minds, we didn't have enough experience at that point to have any idea that it was going to be anything but smooth sailing and rock stardom from here on out.
Yeah.
So because we were young and idealistic, and we didn't have that experience yet, and it was just, there was a lot of frustration with the label, because we didn't know that the label was already struggling financially before they even had, I think, 10 albums out, and so we weren't aware of what their problems were, but we did know that we were like in the middle of a big fight between the label and the studio over them getting paid. And of course, when you're 17 years old, that's not a fun place to be. You got the studio owner threatening to burn your master tapes that you just recorded. And then when they finally put the record out, Mike, I mean, you can see now in the newer editions of a Crystal Vision that are out there, the way the cover was always intended to look. But when they put that record out and they turned it all brown and put a big purple border around it and changed our logo, and they did all this stuff to us without even mentioning it to us. We literally got the record delivered. It was like a Spinal Tap scene. It was like, oh, good, our record's here. And we opened it up, and it was like just black, It was like, what did they do? And they cut a song off without telling us. And so we were so angry and bitter, and we just were, it just really worked on our morale,
I can only imagine, you're so excited.
I'm getting long.
No, not at all. I love it. I mean, I love when you have these stories, because I can imagine, being a kid, you get your first record out, you open up that box, like I said, in Spinal Tap, they were looking for the dog in the glove, and it was a Black Album, which Metallica took years later, made millions of dollars off of doing that. But I mean, you expect
for that exact reason.
Yeah, and it has to be heartbreaking and disappointing. And when you think about it, from the time the band started, in '84 until the album came out in '87, in the very beginning, I mean, I don't know if anybody ever thought that they could actually make it or make it big, playing heavy metal. It wasn't until like Metallica, Ride the Lightning came in where I think bands started realizing, hey, you know what? We got a shot of really becoming big and being arena acts and stuff like that. Was this something that you thought about at that young age, or was it more like, hey, you just want to be in a band and get up on stage and meet girls and play and have a good time?
Well, I never got in a band to meet girls because that was not the kind of music we were playing. It didn't. The girls didn't clue into heavier music until the hair metal thing completely exploded, which ultimately ended up being the fall of the Roman Empire for heavy metal. But but until then, it was greasy, pimple-faced teenager guys wanting to jump into the mosh pit. So that was really our focus, and so it really was always about the music for us. And come on, anybody who tells you that they don't have, a piece of them that fantasizes about the band breaking it big, it would be lying, because, you get pulled into this, as a young kid, you hear, I can remember, first of all, my first concert when I was 13 is my uncle and took me and my friend to see Def Leppard, Pyromania. I was 13 years old. And that was the first time I'd been in an arena like that, with like 10,000 people, watching Crocus, Mark Storace singing, Headhunter. And I was like, oh my God, this is what I want to do. I don't care if it's just in my basement or it's in an arena. I know I want to do this, And then, and so the more you get into it, the more you find yourself dedicating every waking moment to it. And then you find out that, well, maybe you're not going to be as big as Judas Priest or Def Leppard. And then you ask yourself, well, how much do I really love this? And I guess apparently I love it that much, because here I am, 53 years old, almost 40 years later. Mike, almost 40 years
I know.
later.
It goes by real quick. And I was disappointed when the band broke up, because, like I said, I was such a big fan. And it had to be, I want to say, maybe 10 years later that I come across Soundscape and now Discovery. And that album just blew me away. The same with Grave New World. You guys took like Yes and hyped it up to the next level. That was just...
Oh, yeah. Well, you really did hear that stuff, didn't you?
Oh, yeah. I love those two records. They were like... progressive metal came along and people got into it. This was on a whole nother level. The name Soundscape described it perfectly, because it was like soundscapes with progressive music, rock, metal, all mixed together. It was just an unbelievable, those two albums. I still have them till today.
Oh, I love that you know Soundscape, and that you actually really know Soundscape, because that everything that you say is what we set out to do. We were really into progressive music. I was wanting to not find myself pigeonholed in any way into writing for any particular style, and it's true. I was obsessed at the time with Yes, Kansas, and I got to tell you, the Dream Theater's success at the time in the early '90s was like, wow, this is pretty cool. You can really do something. You can really do something like this with a heavier tint to it, and that was what Soundscape was all about. But I'll tell you, the biggest struggle for Soundscape was that it was so difficult to describe what we were doing, so that we would play progressive metal festivals, and people would look at us and go, wow, well, they're not all progressive metal, really. And then we would play with prog rock festivals, and they'd be like, well, these guys are kind of heavy. So I don't know. We had a hard time fitting in, but we did make a couple of records that I'm proud of.
It does run the gamut, but it's something that you just have to sit down and listen to. I was going to play Age of Wonder before he came on. I'm like, that's half my show, so I couldn't.
Are you kidding?
That's like 14, 15 minutes long. I was like, maybe we'll close out with that at the end of the night.
Well, you know what? It's true, and you could tell right then and there that was when I was deepest into my creating only for myself period. Because when you're writing 15-minute long songs, you're really just in your own world, having a great time playing with yourself. and that's what we were doing in Soundscape. It was four guys just creating exactly like it says, soundscapes. Just
Yeah.
entire, epic monstrosities that went on forever and ever. And it was fun to play in them, that was for sure.
But isn't it great that you can get lost in a song like that where, you don't feel like there's any boundaries? Because a lot of musicians say, you know what, we got to keep it at 3 to 4 minutes if we're going to get radio play. And, maybe we'll lose people, especially today, you lose people's attention if like 2 minutes of a song. But something like that really lets you as an artist and as a musician really express yourself and just escape it to a whole nother world. And that's where I go when I put those records on. Like, I just zone out. I'm like, man, it's like getting high without getting high.
Yeah.
And I've never gotten high, so I don't know. But I mean, it's just like escaping.
Well, it's true, but at the time, I used to get, I had a chip on my shoulder that people didn't have the attention span or time to sit down and dedicate themselves to listening to a 15-minute song. But as I've gotten older, I realize that's asking a lot of people nowadays. It really is. I mean, that people don't have. It's amazing. I see kids literally can't even get through a 2-minute song before they're switching to the next song when they're listening to like their playlist. So it asks a lot of dedication from the listener to really, kind of invest themselves in a song almost as much as the artist. But God, do I appreciate it when someone does. I mean, you're making my whole night telling me how much you've listened to those records, that you've actually sat there and gotten through all of Age of Wonder. That's awesome.
Yeah, they're two solid records. They really are. But, when you move, that went on for maybe 10, 12 years or so. I mean, I know because the second record came out maybe almost 10 years after the first record. But I remember bouncing around on the internet one day and they say, a crystal revision. I'm like, what the hell is that? And then I read, I'm like, holy cow, they went and re-recorded a crystal vision. And that was the beginning of the Sacred Oath coming back. And, I mean, how did that come about? I mean, hearing the stories about a crystal vision, I could see, like, how you were disappointed. Was this, like, a little bit of revenge to, like, get it out again the way you wanted it?
Well, no, I'll tell you. You want to know about how that revision record actually came together and why?
Yeah, the whole revision thing, yeah.
Yeah, well, I'll tell you, there wasn't really a vision behind that. It had everything to do with what we were just talking about, which was soundscape. I mean, soundscape in the mid-'90s, late '90s was visible because we were so active on the East Coast. And Dennis Gulby, Dennis Gulby, who had Sensible Steel Records?
Yes.
Okay. So Dennis, because of soundscape, having their head out of the water, he found me and expressed that he was, interested in reissuing a Crystal Vision and that he was a big fan of Sacred Oath. And it was funny because I was so deep when he contacted me, Discovery was out and we were just getting into the studio to record Grave New World. And I don't know if you're aware of this, but at the same time, I was also putting out solo albums. So in 1998, we were touring, promoting Discovery. We'd just gone in to start recording Grave New World also. I had put out a solo album, which was a whole rock opera based on Shakespeare's Othello that I just finished in the studio and put out. And Dennis Gulby called me and said that he wanted to reissue a Crystal Vision, and we couldn't find any master tapes anywhere. So there was discussion about recording a couple of bonus tracks like The Invocation in the End, which actually appeared on the edition that he put out. Are you familiar with that?
Yes.
Okay, but when we got together to do that, it was the first time Sacred Oath had been together in the same room in more than 10 years, or about 10 years, actually. And we were having such a good time just as friends being together again, reminiscing, that, when we rolled tape, we were like, well, let's just blow through the whole record. I mean, my God, it's so much fun playing these songs. So Dennis ultimately, he put out the reissue, and he put 4 tracks on as bonus tracks. But then ultimately I said, God, the whole thing is pretty fun to listen to. It's not a great recording, but the band is definitely on fire. I mean, sonically, but the band is just like firing pretty hard.
Yeah.
So I was like, we'll just put that out since we know Darkness Visible. This was before Darkness Visible was coming out. So we had it in the can for about 8 years, actually. And when we knew Darkness Visible was going to come out, I said, let's pop that revision out there and just see if anybody's going to, just to get the waves moving before Darkness Visible comes out so people start talking about Sacred Oath again. And it kind of worked, because, some people hated revision. Some people really loved it. But then everybody seemed to like Darkness Visible, which was nice,
Oh, absolutely. Because most people think that was the first record with the original lineup again, back together. But yeah, you and Kenny have been together forever. You guys have always been playing, Sacred. He's been the one constant by your side. You've been together more than most married couples have been together when you think about it.
You tell us it's true.
But
yeah, although he didn't play, we didn't play that whole time that I was doing Soundscape. But Kenny has been the constant in Sacred Oath, and a lot of people. Well, actually, I'm going to say most people don't know this. That there was a time period in 2010 that Kenny had a severe back injury right after World on Fire came out, and we ended up doing some touring. And we had to have a drummer fill in, and that was a big thing for me, because after we did that, I really knew, deep in my heart, I was like, you know what? If Kenny's not in this, I really don't want to do it. It just wasn't the same without having Kenny in the project, because I just felt kind of like it was me carrying, waving a flag, carrying a bunch of newer guys, because this was back in 2010 at the time. And I had a meeting with Kenny, and I said, I don't want to do this without you. And he kind of just really took his back rehabilitation super seriously. And, it's been great ever since.
I'm glad. When you did decide to get the band back together, was it difficult getting everybody on board? Did you have pull a leg here and there to make it happen? Or was everybody willing to go and give it a shot?
Well, it always depends on which era, which album are you talking about?
Well, around the Crystal Revision era, when you try to get the 4 members of the lineup back together again.
Oh my God! Right then, after 10 years, for the very first time.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that was crazy. And the truth be told, Mike, Glenn Cruciani is not on that album.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Did you know? Yeah, Glenn Cruciani's not on that album. Yeah, that's Todd Rose from Soundscape playing Glenn Cruciani's lead work. So what happened was we flew Pete out from Chicago to my studio in Danbury at the time, and Kenny, was living, I think, around Danbury at the time, maybe just over in New York somewhere. But Glenn was still out on the West Coast, where we had been, but we'd come back to work, in the New York area, and Glenn stayed out there. And Glenn was unable to come do that recording. And we were really only planning to do a couple of bonus tracks, really,
yeah.
Mike. So it was like, okay, well, whatever, I did all the rhythm. That's all me playing rhythm on Revision, and Pete playing bass. And that was wild because, things didn't end beautifully in 1988. And there was a lot of drama, and people were upset. And so that was really the first time that Pete and I got back in a room together, and Kenny too. And it was intense, but awesome. Everyone was happy that we had done it. And in fact, it really motivated Pete to go off and do his own thing in the Chicago area with his band Low 12 for like another 10 or 15 years, because he had kind of just been completely out of it. So it was a good experience.
But Glenn was on Darkness Visible, and was there any talk after that of keeping it going, or did you know that was going to be probably the only record with that lineup?
Oh, and I'm so glad Glenn was on Darkness Visible, because Glenn again is a huge part of the magic, that we feel when we play, and every time, and we try to get Glenn to make guest appearances here and there. He's even on Return of the Dragon on one solo. But the thing for Glenn was that he just, at the time, had too many things going on in his personal life to be able to commit to any kind of touring that we anticipated doing. Like for Darkness Visible, we went to Europe, and there was just no way Glenn was going to be able to be available for that, So we made the decision to hire Billy, because Billy was available. and Billy ended up, that turned into a big gig for him because he came and he did the tour, and then he did the self-titled album. And he's on his very first recording was the live album that we did in Germany. And then he did the self-titled, and he did World on Fire, and he did Raven Song and 12 Bells, and and then he even did Return of the Dragon, but he didn't do Fallen. You know that Fallen, by the way, is Glenn, Pete, Kenny, and I, and that's it. That's a true reunion album right there. You there?
Hey, Rob, you there?
You there, Mike?
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
we had a little drop there, the connection. I was saying, I said,
right.
you consider the Fallen to be more of the true, classic lineup reunion record than Darkness Visible?
I'm sorry, say that again?
You were saying that to you, Fallen was like the true reunion record to you, even more so than Darkness, which, really was the first time you was all back together?
No. I only say that because, here's the other thing about Darkness Visible, is Pete was battling cancer at the time.
Oh, okay.
And Pete had cancer and has been cancer free, thank God, for whatever it's been, 15 years. But he was because of the medication and treatments he was on, he was losing complete feeling in both of his hands. So we were halfway through Darkness Visible. So Pete only appears, I think, on 5 or 6 of the songs on Darkness Visible, and Lou Liotta had to come in and play the remaining songs on bass. And he also played with us for a while. But yeah, Pete was having health problems with in his battle against cancer, and he got to the point where he was unable to play. And it was with his blessing, because he was like, "Hey, this is a great record." He wrote many of the songs on it, and he just wanted it to get out there, and so that's what happened. So at Fallen, Pete was able to play through the entire album, which was great. But you're right, Darkness really is it's a reunion album for sure.
Yeah. Well, when you think about your
In
outputs
the true '80s style.
Absolutely.
True 80s style.
Yeah. Well, Rob, when you think about all your outputs since that record came out, like you just named almost all the albums: Sacred Oath, World on Fire, Fallen, Raven Song, 12 Bells, and then last year's Return of the Dragon. I mean, it's been literally a year, maybe every other year that you've had new music. I mean, have all these songs been just sitting in the can since the '80s, waiting to come back out again? Or are you just that busy and active as far as songwriting goes?
No, isn't that crazy? The only, Darkness Visible, though, most of those songs on Darkness Visible were sitting in the can, not having had been recorded, but they were in my head, or they were on rehearsal tapes. And it's funny because Darkness Visible, what's remarkable about that album and why I love it so much is half of the songs on Darkness Visible were written before we even recorded a Crystal Vision. And they were bumped because we thought the songs, we wanted to record the most exciting, newest songs we were pumped about for Crystal Vision at the time. But are you kidding me? Unholy Man, Battle Cry, Queen of the Night, Prophecy, you know that from the first demo. Those songs were all written way before Crystal Vision was written and recorded, right? But then you've got the songs that were written after Crystal Vision, like Darkness Visible, Words Upon the Stone, Death is Inevitable, Calm Before the Storm. Those songs were newer songs. So it's a great hybrid, that album, of super, super early both, and then where we were right as we broke up, Then you have a couple of songs that had been in writing stages that weren't recorded that made it onto later records, like Lurking Fear, Pete, that's on Fallen. Pete had written that. What's another one that's on Fallen that had been? Dream Death. Glenn had written that in 1988, and we got that on Fallen. But there's not a lot of other stuff that was like, we wrote that before. All of the self-titled, that was all brand new material. And I just was so, I was having so much fun writing for Sacred Oath, Mike. It's something that comes, that style is just so natural to me. It's so easy to me. Like when I say easy, I mean I just, it's funny because Kenny will be like, "Oh, Rob, when are you going to start writing?" And then I'll call him 2 weeks later and go, "Okay, I wrote the whole record." It's like it's just I sit down and it just comes out of my head very quickly, which is fun for me. I don't do this because I want to sweat and strain and agonize. I do this because it's so enjoyable and it's like a therapy for me. You know what I mean? If we don't play once, if we don't play enough, I start to get a little irritable.
Yeah, I can imagine. Because my next question was going to be like when you did decide, we're going to do Sacred Oath again. Because after Soundscape and the solo stuff, did you find like you had to kind of get back into that mind frame of this is Sacred Oath, this is who we are, this is what we sound like. But obviously not, because it's such a big part of you that you just automatically know where you have to go with it.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Well, the beautiful thing is that when you've always been at the center of it, you don't really have to question what your role is in it. You just say, well, I'll just do what I've always done, and that will just be what Sacred Oath is. It's not like I'm trying to fit into anything. Whereas with Soundscape, I was really trying to stretch, and when I was a little bit out of my comfort zone in that Soundscape, I was playing keyboards. I wasn't playing guitar in that band. And so I was really having to say, well, okay, I'm sort of driving this band too, but I'm in a weird place. It's not exactly my comfort zone, and we're really trying to stretch our imaginations. Whereas with Sacred Oath, it's just like, this is what I think. Bam, done, song, great. It fits into, it's easy for me, And the minute you get Kenny and I in a room together, we barely have to rehearse. I mean, and I'm not even exaggerating, Mike. Like when we did the self-titled record, we barely rehearsed that album, Kenny and I. I mean, Kenny and I just think so alike musically. I'll play a riff, he knows exactly what to do to it, and literally an hour later it could be down on tape and done. And it's just that easy. So that was very liberating after having been in Soundscape and having to work so hard in that band.
Well, I can imagine. When you think about all the records that have come out, you're kind of behind the board on everything. You're engineering it, you're producing it. You have Angel Thorne Music. You're releasing your own records. Was this something that you found had to be necessary, or you had to do it because of the lessons you learned from Mercenary and the whole music business? Did you say, what, I kind of got to take control of my product, what I put out there, because then it all falls on me and it'll come out the way I want it to, and I can't blame anybody else?
Well, everything I do because I'm curious about it and I get interested in it, and then I get pulled into it and I enjoy doing it. Like there is a little element of being dissatisfied with how someone else might be doing it and then saying, I want to see if I can do it better. And that's definitely one of the reasons I got into, producing, because, we would go into the studio and we'd be under a time constraint, and it'd be a whirlwind, and you'd come out and you wouldn't always be thrilled with where the recordings ended up. And over the years, in those early days of Sacred Oath and then other things that I had done when I was out in LA, I'd watch over the engineer's shoulder and I'd start to pick up and say, I get this, and I could do this, and I could take my time and have it really be the way I want it to be. So that's how I got into that end of things. As far as the label and the distribution and the business side of things, when Sacred Oath got resurrected, and at the time I was also busy in Soundscape, you're talking about when the internet sort of became, accessible to all of us. And I had actually, in 4 years of the time I was off from Sacred Oath, I'd gone to college, and at the time that I had just finished college, and I had just written this whole rock opera about Marilyn Monroe called American Beautiful, and I was gonna try and get it produced on a stage, and I had all these things that I wanted to do right after I graduated, and the internet was there, and it was a new thing, and everybody was talking about how it was going to be a way to take more control over, your rights of your music and your say in how things went with the distribution of your music. Now, that was true, but I had no idea because I was so young what a big job that was going to be and how much what was really involved. So I sure learned a lot, and over the years have found myself now in a position where I get it and I know how to do things more efficiently. But it was tough back then. But I hung in with it because I was fascinated by it and I wanted to see if I could make it work. It wasn't always easy though.
Oh, I can imagine. I mean, when you think about the band today compared to the '80s, I mean, do you feel like there's no pressure on you now? Because back then, maybe you had goals and ideas and dreams and stuff that you wanted to make happen or accomplish. Where today, like, you know what, I'm just having a great time. I mean, last year, Return of the Dragon comes out. And to me, the album flew under the radar because it was in the middle of the pandemic, and the whole world was crazy. And I'm like, this record is amazing. And I just feel like it didn't get the attention it deserved because just there was so much else going on in the world for people to really pay attention to a lot of other things.
Nah, I don't know. You could say that every record we've put out didn't get the attention it deserved, Mike. I mean, compared to 12 Bells or Raven Song, Return of the Dragon did get some attention. I mean, we definitely worked harder than usual to draw attention to Return of the Dragon because we really had nothing else to do. We couldn't go out and play. So we set about, conceptualizing and making those lyric videos to put out and kind of just play with, self-releasing videos content and trying to get involved with social media to call some awareness to the band that way. And in that sense, we kind of invested ourselves, and there was a little pressure to kind of like make something, to try and get some activity around it. But I don't know that we've ever felt enormous pressure to for what? You mean to like become overnight mega stars or something? Is that what you're talking about?
Oh God. Well, how's Connecticut today for like the scene? Is there enough of a local scene to sustain you guys when you want to go out and just play a show? I remember in the '80s I used to go to Brickenwood all the time, from New York.
Oh my God! You used to go to the Brickenwood?
Brickenwood, yeah. I was in a band. I was in a hardcore band, and they used to play there all the time too. But there was another club around the same area that I can't remember the name.
Did you Toads?
I think that was it, Toads.
Did you ever see Sacred Oats at the Brickenwood?
I don't remember if it's at the Brickenwood, but I saw you at another club in Connecticut, I think.
Wow. Yeah, we played the Brickenwood. We did a show at the Brickenwood with a band called Machinery. And I think that might have been one of the very last Sacred Oats shows, actually.
I'm trying. I don't think it was that one. It might have been somewhere else. But I missed the show in Brooklyn 2 weeks ago. That's killing me with Attacker and Mean Streak. I had to work that night. I couldn't get out of work.
You missed that?
Yeah, I had to work. I'm retiring in a couple of weeks. So I have to work every night to get all my stuff done before I leave. And I missed that show. I was like, I wanted to see you guys. Attacker are great friends of mine, and Mean Street got back together. I know the singer got hurt.
Can you even believe that? It was like a Mercenary Records reunion.
Yeah, when you think about it, that's right.
That's what it was. All you needed was Kick Axe and Primal Scream and the Goo Goo Dolls, and it would have been a complete Mercenary bonanza.
My God. That killed me to miss that show because I was like, oh my God, Sacred Oath, Attack, and Mean Streak. I mean, holy cow!
It was a crazy night actually because Tina, the lead singer of Mean Streak, had a terrible accident in the club and broke her arm, and it was spent the whole night in the ER, and the band had to get up and play instrumentally, which was kind of anticlimactic at the end of the night, but things happen, it's tough. But for us, it was a very good night because I'll tell you what happened was we were slated to play for an hour, and right in the middle between Attacker and Mean Streak, and God, we're about to start Rising from the Grave, which is going to be the last song of our set, and we were going to hand out a neck brace, and the sound man comes running up on stage trying to get my attention, and I'm like, oh my God. I'm like, are you kidding me? We're about to start the last song. Chill out. I think he's going to harass me, right? He's actually runs up and he screams in my ear, don't stop playing. The lead singer for Mean Streak's in the hospital. Just keep playing. And so it was funny because I was the only, and then he was like, don't tell anyone. Don't say anything. And so I'm like, okay, which I didn't even have, we were in the middle of a set. I didn't even have time to talk to the band. So I just kept calling out tracks.
Yeah.
I kept saying, you guys want to hear another one? All right, let's do Words Upon the Stone. All right, let's do Battle Cry. All right, let's do Darkness Visible. And like the guys in, you know, I'm looking over at like Damiano and Kenny, and they're like, what the hell are you doing? We're way past an hour now. And I'm like, don't worry, just keep playing. It was kind of funny actually. And then finally I just got so tired. I said, sorry, we're done. I can't do anymore.
Yeah, it must have been a great show. You got anything else coming up, in the near future?
You know, we don't have anything coming up in the near future.
Yeah.
I mean, you're talking about live performances?
Yeah, live. Yeah, live. I would love a new record, but we just
Yeah.
got one last year. But then again, you do next year.
Well, I want to do more. Look, the last couple shows, we did a mega show in Connecticut in May where we played almost all of Return of the Dragon and all of A Crystal Vision. And that was a great time for us. This one we did in Brooklyn, that was just supposed to be Crystal Vision. So we did the whole Crystal Vision album, which requires, like for us, it's like, Mike, we're not 17 anymore. So it's like, okay, we're going to do Crystal Vision. All right, we got to get in shape, got to go for a jog, got to ride the bike, got to stay healthy. And I can't drink that fifth of Jack Daniels tonight because you got to sing like you way high tomorrow.
Yeah.
So it's like we've been focused on that, but I would like to do some more shows where we get to focus on Return of the Dragon because we really enjoy playing those songs. Really enjoy, especially, we're having a great time with Damiano added to the group. He's so much fun to play with. He has a great time up there. He's a phenomenal player. And we love the songs the way they turned out on Return of the Dragon. And we want to enjoy those for a little bit before we hop back into the studio, But we did make a live recording. We did make some live recordings and from these shows, and there's a chance that if we have nothing going on and I get bored, that maybe I'll mix something and put something out. But we just did a live record in 2019. It's for the 12 Bells tour, so I'm not in a big hurry to put out another live record. But if it sits around for a couple of years, maybe we'll put some of those tracks out.
That'd be good. What about a live video? I mean, a video isn't even relevant today because, with YouTube, everybody puts everything up there anyway. But did you ever think about putting out a whole live, video show?
He's talking about like a produced DVD kind of thing?
Yeah, even with a documentary attached to it, maybe like a behind-the-scenes type of thing of the whole history of the band. That would be pretty cool.
Wouldn't that be fun?
Yeah.
I've actually I've been approached by some people about doing a documentary about the band, and maybe there is still interest in that. It really hasn't turned into anything. It sort of came up over the pandemic, and then we haven't discussed it much more since then. But that would be fun, and I would like to do a live concert because I think that the band is exciting live, and I think that's why we have a couple live records out, because when I hear the tracks, I go, wow, the band is fun to listen to, live. It's different. But it hasn't come together for a video yet, because in my mind, I would want it to be done, well, and it's just the stars haven't lined up yet to get the right crew in there at the right budget to get it done in the right venue,
Yeah. Well, the Keep It True one would have been fantastic. I mean, back in the early days, 'cause those are great shows, big festivals, and you got the live record from that too.
Yeah. It's funny. We did put out I've been getting this old footage that we discovered of us playing it's just VHS camera stuff, but that's the beauty of YouTube, is that you can throw up old crappy recordings that someone made with a VHS camera back in 1987 onto YouTube without having to put too much into it. And people enjoy that stuff, you know, because they know that it's fan filmed and it's just kind of like low quality, but it is kind of neat to see some of those moments captured in time, you know.
Oh, it's true. I mean, I had one of those big cameras back in the 80s. And I look at some of the videos I took, and I'm like, I have a $79 cell phone right now that takes videos that are a million times better than that $1,000 camera I bought when I was a kid.
Oh, yeah, right? I know, right? Yeah, it was like you were carrying around a toaster oven on your shoulder.
I felt like I was filming an episode of I Love Lucy. Like I had the 400-pound camera on my back, dragging it around the clubs.
Yep, those were the days.
Yeah.
Funny.
But it was great. Hey, but, you know, Rob, I'm going to have to cut you off because we only got a little bit of time left in the show, and I could talk to you forever, but I do want to get on Age of Wonder. I'm going to throw an Age of Wonder and hell with everybody. They're going to have to sit there for 15 minutes and listen to it. I want to get on a few more Sacred Oath songs. I'm going to throw that on to close out the show tonight, man. But I can't wait to see you. It kills me that I missed you in Brooklyn. I will catch you next time. My wife and I go to Connecticut. We go to like Wallingford, Connecticut every year for like a long weekend. So I'm going to try to make the next trip out there when you guys are playing live, because I know you're not that far from there. And hopefully I'll be able to see you guys in your hometown playing live again like it was back in the 80s.
Yeah, I'll let you know for sure.
That'd be fantastic.
Well, thanks for having me, man. I appreciate that you know so much about all the stuff that went on in the 90s, because that's, for many people, that's a black hole.
That's the truth.
There was a lot, but there was a lot going on, and in many ways that there was a big part of the resurgence of Sacred Oath for us. So it's exciting.
It's true. You know, somebody said the other day, they're talking about the 90s and music. Like, rock and metal didn't die in the 90s. We just stopped looking for the bands that were out there. And, that's kind of summed up the whole decade when I thought about it. I was like, you know what? You're right. Because they thought it died and they just gave up people. And they didn't look around. And there was a lot of great stuff out there, like Soundscape.
Yeah, there really was, and it was hard to find. Because what happened was it went from what we were into, it was mainstream, to all of a sudden it went back underground, and people got too lazy to look for it.
That's very true. Rob, I'm going to get on a couple of Sacred Oath, and then I'm going to wrap it up here with Soundscape tonight. So it was great talking to you, my friend. And I'm looking forward to a new record soon.
You, Mike.
Take care, Rob.
Thanks, man.
Enjoy the rest of your Sunday.
All right, bye-bye.
Take care, bye-bye. All right, let's get on to Empire 4.
Walked every temple, went to every show. Not even ancient Greece had gods like ours that sang us battle hymns for hours and hours. We worshipped each of them and brought them tithes for all the meaning that they gave our lives. We had a brotherhood that spanned across nations.
All right, so back-to-back Sacred Oath there. Queen of the Night and Empire's Fall. I could have talked to Rob forever, but I had to keep muting the microphone because I was coughing and sneezing. I just, I got sick this week. I apologize. But we'll get Rob back on here again one day when the next record comes out. All right, we're going to wrap things up here tonight. Let me see here. There was a lot of new music I wanted to get to. We just didn't have the time. I'll do two more. We'll do New Razor because I promised I would get that on. I'm going to play some Tempest. My old co-host Tommy Flanger's band from the 80s. We'll play something off of one of the demos. And then we'll wrap it up here with Age of Wonder by Soundscape. Like I said, it's like a 13, 14-minute song. So we'll close out the show with that. But I want to thank both of my guests for being on tonight's show, Robby and Rob. It was a pleasure to talk with you guys. Next week, Thane Rasmussen from Anvil Chorus will be our guest. Thane has his brand new solo project out, the Thane Rasmussen Project. And we also have Chris Gustafsson on from Trauma. So don't forget to tune in next Sunday when we kick off the month of October. It's Halloween month, my favorite time of the year. Plus, it's my birthday, which means I can finally retire after 35 years on my job, November 1st. So it's a big month for me, and I'm looking forward to it. All right, how about we do a little Tempest, Unknown Task off of the band's 84 demo, Live at the Gates of Babylon. Brand new Razor, Darkness Falls, and like I said, Soundscape, Age of Wonder. You're not going to hear me back on after this because I'm going to give my throat a rest. So have a great week, everybody. I will see you next Sunday. Take care.
There's a river leading out to nowhere. There's a castle and it's made of gold. I see a lady floating on the water with just a smile in the freezing cold. It is written that she guards the castle, and what's behind her golden doors. So if you do what she has to tell you, just what you see will be yours. today. It's a purpose for a people with a pre-decided society.